Good morning, folks. Everything new under the sun. So, my first comment, and we will talk about Russia. They're beating the war drums as their economy falters, as popularity in Putin decrease, and as world geopolitical issues increase, trade wars with China, etc. And there's a great convergence of end time Bible prophecy, and a lot of end time Bible prophecy is war. And war is really what shifts the nations, which moves end-time Bible prophecy forward in terms of the 7-year tribulation and the Antichrist and the switchover in the world order from sovereign governments to a one world currency, etc. So war is a big part, a big player. I want to comment first, though, on the community page. I put up a couple of polls, and there was a good response. And so the first question I asked was, what Bible prophecy subject would you like me to do a video on next? And 143 votes, and the largest percentage is World War. And that does seem to equate to the numbers that the views that I do get on my YouTube channel. There's a lot of people who are interested in it, worried about it, and it's not just it's not just clickbait, because World War end time battles are prominent in end time Bible prophecy. So that's a big thing. So it's not just clickbait. These are the battles which are going to give us milestones, which are going to help us understand where we are in end time Bible prophecy. And I believe these there's some two significant battles, and I've spoken on them a lot: Isaiah 17 and Ezekiel 38, happening prior to the 7-year tribulation. And I think we're closing in on that. What I think happens before that is an economic collapse. So I think the economic collapse is big as well. It's really part and parcel. What I think at this point is that it kicks off those end-time prophetic battles. 26% said they were interested in the third temple, and I would like to do a couple more videos on that and see what I can scrounge up for where they are, where the situation of the Israeli, the Jewish people are in terms of interest in that. I put on one other poll, interested to see your feedback on this, because with the greater bandwidth that I have available to me now, I can do longer format videos. And I think they're helpful for presenting a number of ideas and more context, rather, surrounding whatever issue that I'm talking about. And I think it's key when you look at 5-minute videos. You can't get into a lot of the background of the subjects that we're talking about. You can't get into maybe more scriptures and kind of round out the geopolitical situation surrounding the subject. So interested to know if you like 10-minute videos. Is that your attention span? Is that how long of a video you prefer? Do you prefer longer format? I just put up an Airstream video that was 30 minutes long. That's one of kind of the longest videos that I've done, kind of all in one stretch. That wasn't strung together, a bunch of different videos. Do you prefer those ones where you can kind of sit back and watch? Is my content interesting enough to sit through 30 minutes? And obviously I hope it is. And maybe the Airstream content specifically is more interesting for that point of view. For my own part, when I'm watching Airstream videos, I do like the longer form content. And if nothing else, I can certainly skip through the content to whatever part I'm looking for. But I kind of like, at least for the Airstream ones, because they're more relaxing, more what's the word I'm looking for? R&R, relax and restoration. Those are the kind of videos you kind of want to sit back and just have a cup of coffee and watch for more than 5 minutes on. So I kind of prefer those, at least for the Airstream videos. And I think for some of the Bible prophecy topics, those are the longer format is interesting as well. And then the third option is, I only prefer 5-minute videos or less, something you can watch very quickly, get the gist of the information, and go on. And I know there's going to be differing opinions, but I'm interested to hear what you think about it. And maybe I should have separated this by, whether it's a Bible prophecy video, whether it's an Airstream, or some other style video that I do on the channel. But I would like to get into longer format content, but if everybody says they prefer the shorter stuff, well, then I'm happy to do that. The channel is for entertainment and education, and it's to point people ultimately to Christ, that we are in the last days, that the Lord is returning soon, and they need to know Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. On top of that, the Lord does want us to, and He appreciates that we can enjoy His creation and enjoy working with our hands, enjoy our time, enjoy our families, and so that's what I like to do with the hobby of restoring the Airstream. And if I had millions of dollars, I would just go buy a new Airstream. But I don't have millions of dollars. I have a little bit of money, so that's why I do the little projects on the Airstream. And it's a really old Airstream too, so I'm not going out spending thousands of dollars, purchasing this stuff. I'm kind of doing bit by bit. But anyways, that's enough of that. Let me know what you think. Go to the community link on the channel, and you can vote on that. So thanks for watching, and you can still vote, I do believe, on the Bible prophecy poll as well, and definitely comment. I like to see the comments there. All right, let's get into it. I've blathered on for 6 minutes. Wowzers, wowzers, wowzers. Yeah, so let's get into the Bible prophecy. So on the war topic, and again, this is a big part. How much is it in terms of percentage of end-time Bible prophecy? That's a great question. I suggest to you that in terms of what's coming up and what's left of Bible prophecy to be fulfilled, this is probably more than 50%. Maybe it's 60 or 70, 75% of end-time Bible prophecy. A lot of the end-time Bible prophecy is about the persecution, the wars, the violence in the last days. And war is a big part of it. Whether it comes from wars between nations, nations rising against nations, wars and rumors of wars, or whether it's dealt out by God, the punishment on the nations, and the wrath of God coming down. You can consider that war if you want, but it's a big part of it. Now look at this image here. This is from BBC.com. Does this not look to you like the Battle of Gog, Magog, Russia, Iran, Turkey, and they're holding hands, they're shaking hands. They are looking to come up with an agreement on how they will respond in Syria, interestingly, and the UN is facilitating this. So the UN is getting them together and saying, how can you three members who are already in Syria come up with a way to protect peace and continue peace in Syria? Russia, Iran, Turkey failed to agree on new constitution body. Talks on in Geneva on setting up a new constitutional committee for Syria. I mean, these countries shouldn't even be in Syria, but they're trying to set up a committee for Syria, and they've ended without a clear outcome. There is an allied side of these. These are allied nations to a large extent. Turkey is moving away from NATO very fast and really lining up with Russia. And in the end times, Ezekiel 38:39 speaks of an alliance between these leaders and more. It says the foreign ministers of Russia, Iran, and Turkey attended the UN-sponsored talks. So the UN is really helping to put together Gog Magog, interestingly, to build a sustainable peace in the country, but failed to agree on the committee's makeup. And who do we know will lead it? Well, the country to the north, Gog, the leader of Magog. And let's look at these verses here. This is BibleGateway.com. This is the NIV. The word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. Prophesy against him, and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I am against you, Gog, chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. I will turn you around, put hooks in your jaw, multiple. There will be many things that draw Gog into battle, hooks in your jaws, and bring you out with your whole army. So the whole army is eventually going to be down there. Your horses, your horsemen fully armed, all the weapons of the military, and a great horde with large and small shields. I wonder if the great horde means all the terrorists, all the insurgents, all the other groups that are in Syria. All of them brandishing their swords. Persia, Iran, and Cush, and put with them all with shields and helmets, also Gomer with all its troops, and Beth Togarmah from the far north with all its troops, the many nations with you. So many nations described here. And what do we see? The three kind of major leading nations. These guys are getting together, and the UN is actually providing space and time to get them together under the pretext of creating lasting peace in Syria. But we know ultimately this force will be used to come against Israel in the last days. Ezekiel 38:39 speaks of that. Well, where is Russia sitting? Well, Russia has enough missiles without violating treaties. So Putin thinks Russia has enough missiles and they don't have to violate the treaty with the U.S. Putin on Tuesday rejected U.S. claim that Russia developed a new cruise missile in violation of the key nuclear treaty, arguing that Russia has no need for such a land-based weapon because it already has similar missiles on its ships and aircraft. So in terms of Russia being a major player and being a large part of Gog-Magog, we can see that the Russian bear is really a world-leading nation now in terms of military, in terms of pushing their weight around, and now specifically in terms of leading the way in the Middle East and being the quote-unquote broker for peace, being the policeman in the Middle East. This is exactly what Putin wanted. Putin wants strength, that he wants influence in the Middle East and over the oil-producing nations, because he's going to be looking shortly for more revenue. And he's not going to like that Israel is going to start selling natural gas to the Middle East, to Europe rather, that Russia currently sells energy products to, natural gas, etc., has pipelines there. Israel's going to come in and undercut them and take a slice of their revenue. Russia's not going to like that. This is going to be one of the hooks in the jaws, where Russia comes down to take a spoil. Of course, you take SPF spoil and you get oil. And so Russia's going to move on Israel because Russia sees Israel's massive wealth in that area. And so Russia is a big name right now. They don't have to gain any more strength. They have enough strength, really, and partnerships with Iran, Turkey, and other nations to where they really can control Syria. Let's look at this one. This is from the Globe and Mail. As the Russian economy and Putin's popularity tumble, the war drums grow louder. So you talk about Ezekiel 38. You talk about a reason for Russia to go to war. And, look at this. News coming out. This is a very reputable magazine. The Globe and Mail news organization. Russian economy is faltering. Putin's popularity is tumbling. What do nations do when popularity tumbles? Well, they go to war. What do nations do also when the economy is going downwards? They go to war. And this is exactly what we see. In another country, opinion polls showing that support for the president is falling would be cause for optimism among political opposition. Not in Russia, however. When the political polls go downward for the president, that means he's going to make a stronger move and try and get people to band together and say, rah, rah, Russia, and basically distract voters from the dislike of the president and move them towards war. And that's exactly what we're going to see. Probably one of the hooks in the jaw is that Putin feels he is losing popularity, and he needs to do something on the war front to gain back the nationalism that really props up his government. As support for Putin tumbles to its lowest level in 5 years, anxiety rather than hope is growing among his critics. Some fret that a continuing crackdown on dissent will widen the Kremlin as the Kremlin seeks to head off any expression of growing dissatisfaction. So remember, distract the populace, distract the population, take them to war, get them voting together, get the nationalism higher. Others worry Russian government may instigate new fighting in neighboring Ukraine as a way of whipping up both patriotic feeling and support for the president and the motherland and all these things. I suggest to you that he will go to war in Israel as one of the ways to whip up patriotic feeling and support. A buildup of troops and tanks along Russia's border with Ukraine and deployment of new missile systems in Crimea suggests Putin is at least considering a major military operation against Ukraine. In response to the buildup, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko has declared martial law in 10 provinces, including all those that share a border with Russia, and has called up soldiers for training exercises. So martial law in Ukraine, and this is a reputable news organization saying Putin is basically considering major military operation. Both sides are readying for a major regional war. The situation is very precarious. So you look at Russia in the last days, they are angling themselves for war. They are getting into the situation where Putin is going to look for support, and going to war will gain greater support from patriotism and more support from the president, for the country as a whole, for the motherland. And so you look at Gog Magog, Ezekiel 38:39, and you can see Russia is going to be put into a corner economically, militarily, where they're going to have to act out and attempt to consolidate their power. This is what we see right now from these reputable news organizations, BBC, the Globe and Mail, and what we're going to see soon. I believe this is the build-up for Ezekiel 38:39. I think this is coming. You can read these articles for yourselves. This is serious. They already have martial law in Ukraine. If this war breaks out, and there's no mention of Western powers, the U.S., in end-time Bible prophecy, what has happened to the U.S.? What has happened to North America and Western powers? I believe an economic collapse is the answer to that, and that's what comes prior to these actually happening. Whether Putin explodes an EMP device over North America and causes economic collapse, or the economic collapse just is triggered on itself, and then Russia sees the situation where they can go in unadulterated, uncontested into Israel because Western powers are out of the picture. All they can say at that point is, have you come to take a spoil, just as it says in Ezekiel 38:39. And so that's the situation we see. And this is significant. End-time Bible prophecy is being fulfilled. We see the countries aligned for Gog Magog, Ezekiel 38. All we're looking for is an economic collapse now to take the Western nations out of the situation. I will leave there, guys. Thanks for watching. This is coming soon. Be ready for it. Do you know the Lord Jesus Christ as your personal Savior? He's coming soon. And the Bible speaks of hard times and battles and economic collapses coming. And I would venture to say we could be months. We could be counting the time prior to this in months and not years at this point in time. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video.